one. So here's for a another unstoppable story. And I'm always excited when we have a new guest sharing their story. They're a favorite thing that I do because I love hearing other stories. It's all about inspiration. It's about ways that we can listen to someone else's, the way that, their story and the way that they were able to champion over adversity, which these days it seems like we're dealing with so much outside noise that it's so important to know who we are, what our mission purpose is, what are we really after, and to keep focused on that so that we don't let, whether it's outside noise or the noise right here, wherever wherever it exists. It's out there. It's a real thing, right? So love these opportunities to hear unstoppable stories. So today we have Gina Edwards, who is a women's empowerment coach. She has a group that's called Women Speak Circles, which I think is fascinating. We'll have to have you come on another time to talk about that. But I love that you're all about giving women a voice and helping them to hone their story from a writing perspective. But at the core, it's about women's empowerment. So I know you're going to have a great story for us, Gina.
Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate being here today. My unstoppable story actually starts with quitting something. Sometimes we have to let go of something or release something before we can actually move forward. So I was in a very stressful corporate job, the last corporate job that I held. And, I don't need to go into the details of that because many of us over time have had, some kind of job that's been super stressful. But I agonized over making a change because, we're resistant to change. We don't like change. But I finally did fly the coop, and I'm a writer myself. And so I had been working with writers for decades already. And I had a lot of friends who encouraged me, hey, you can make a business out of this. You could do this. So I started working primarily with women. And I started seeing that women would spend months, sometimes years, writing their story, whether it was fictional or memoir or personal essay. And then they would pull back at some point, either before they shared it with me as an editor, before they sought out a literary agent, before they actually put it in the world, out into the world. They would go through all of this process and really open up their heart and spend all of this investment of time and then pull back. And I was like, what is this struggle about? What is that? And I realized that, we form our beliefs when we're small. We form our beliefs a lot of times before we can really know. And so what I realized was I was seeing myself in these women. I realized that as a very, very small child, I had been in a situation where I felt like I was not heard. The adults were around me in conflict. And, as a child, your world is so small. You don't really realize that there's much beyond you and the adults in your immediate vicinity. And so you internalize everything. And so I realized that at that young age, before I could really know, I had internalized stories about my voice not mattering, about even if I used my voice, I wasn't going to be heard. And so seeing that reflected back to me in these women that I was working with, I was like, I've got to find some tools and resources to help myself so I can help them. Because I knew that once I got my book finished, I was going to be in the same boat. I was going to be in the same situation. So I had the good fortune of attending several writing retreats, and the experiences there were phenomenal. So I knew that that was one place where I could create some emotionally and psychologically safe space for women. So I began hosting writing retreats. And then I created a private Facebook group called Women Writing for Change. We get together up to 5 times a week and write together on Zoom. And I also discovered Woman Speak. And those 3 things have allowed me to create these emotionally and safe spaces for women, but they have also allowed me the space. These women have been so empowering for me in finding my own voice, in being able to recognize the perfectionism and the imposter syndrome, the fear of being seen, all those things that I was seeing in my writing clients, how they show up in myself and how I can manage those, how I can not just get beyond them, because it's not always about that. They don't always go away, but how I can manage that. So honestly, Sherry, there is not like one specific unstoppable story. It's been this process, and I feel like I am in the middle of my unstoppable momentum right now.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I think, what you said that was so profound is that you had this awareness, and that's where it starts. We have to be aware that we're in a place that that doesn't serve us, that we don't want to continue being in. We call it being stuck.
Yeah.
I don't think
so
we really
often
get stuck. I think we're either slipping towards, we're moving in one direction or another. We don't stay still.
So often too, I think we do need to see that in others sometimes before we recognize it in ourselves. And that's the gift that I feel like was given to me.
Right.
Was these women were showing me what my own fears and self-doubts were. Yeah. And so that allowed me to approach them then.
Yeah. And that's really the purpose of these stories, of sharing these stories, is I think it's a way to connect through a story, to then it allows us to then maybe open a little bit more to recognize what's going on within ourselves. And
so often we think that we're alone in our stories, that we're the only one that has that particular struggle.
Right.
And that is so not the truth. So you doing these, letting women share their stories like this is so empowering. You never know where that ripple is going to spread. So I thank you for, giving me the space to do this, and the other women that you've talked to be able to do this.
Yeah, thank you. It's near and dear to my heart for sure. Thanks, Gina.
Thank you.